Is someone on your network there? Do you know who is consuming your connection or which devices are accessing it without permission? Today you will learn how to configure a firewall with PFSense. And not only that, we will create a DHCP server and block intruders. First, we are going to configure an HCP server to be able to control which devices enter our network. Then the dangerous part, identify which devices are using our network without authorization, or rather, which are the intruding devices on our network. If you want to find out who is invading your network, subscribe and activate the bell. In the next video we will track down the intruder. Something I have to clarify for all of you is that when we start PFS for the first time, we can see our console here. It obviously gives us the WAN interface and the LAN interface. In this case, the IP addresses that always come by default in the firewall are default IP addresses. However, we can configure them through this options menu. See, here is the menu to configure the IP addresses on the interfaces. You can see how I have an IPv4 address on the one, and this one is the interface that is configured as a bridge adapter to my Wi-Fi network. This segment is the one that is currently providing my Wi-Fi network in the LAN, which you can see as another segment that sends messages to the LAN. Now, speaking of LAN and WAN, let's go here to network preferences in our virtual machine where our firewall is, and you can see how I have two adapters here. This first adapter is always the one. Okay, that's why here it is like a bridge adapter, and here I have the interface or the card that is connected to my Wi-Fi router. And here I have adapter 2, which you can see that I have as a host-only adapter. Yes, and I have it in a virtual box adapter. Okay, from a topology perspective, as you can see there, this is what I'm currently presenting to you. Here I have, on the other hand, if you can see here, my virtual box. I'm going to open it here. I have two machines running here, one with Windows 7 and obviously Firewall. I have Windows 7 here, I already have it started. Look, here I have it. And this Windows 7 is the device that is connected to our firewall's LAN. It is the device, or rather, it is the operating system that is going to be on the other side through the firewall. Very good, so let's go to PFSense, and the first thing we are going to do is go to DHCP server and service. Very good, in DHCP server, you can see that here we can configure an HCP server. However, when we are doing the initial configuration, we can see the HCP server here. I'm going to close this window. Here, when we configure the interfaces, we can immediately configure an HCP service. However, here from the PFSense web interface we can configure our HCP server. Obviously we enable the server. Here you have to have this option set like all the clients, that is, this DHCP service propagates to all the clients that are connected to the LAN. See that here I have the LAN interface. Well, if there were another interface, obviously it will show me here. We can leave these options here as they are here where we configured. See that the rec segment is here. Here is obviously the entire range of addresses that this rec segment can take. And see here we have the pool. See that the addresses it is giving are from 10 to 245. We can also add another pool here if we want a segment or another network, right? Remember that we can create subnets here. Okay, here you can see that the DNS that we can be using, in this case the DNS that I'm going to use is my GWI, it's the GWI of the LAN, which is 19,216,811. Okay, here, obviously, we leave the GWI for the HCP service, obviously so that it can configure the DHCP and add the GWI to the devices. Remember that if our HCP server doesn't assign the GWI to the devices, then they won't be able to connect to any gateway. Well, we'll leave the rest as is, okay? We simply save the configuration and we should now have an HCP server. Let's go here to save the configuration. Let's apply it in here. Well, I'm going to restart this interface. I'm going to activate it again. Okay, obviously here I could apply the ipconfig relays, ipconfig renew command to renew the IP address. However, we can also do it like this. Okay, herewith as you can see, the Windows 7 computer or virtual machine already has an address. Let's do a conf IP. See that it has 192.168.1.2. Okay, that's the address that is being assigned to this computer. Very good. There is something that we can do with the DHCP server, and that is to restrict, or in this case add to a list, all the addresses that we want our DHCP server to give an address to. Okay, one of the things that we can do with an DHCP server is to reserve IP addresses. And how do we do it here in the firewall? Simple. Here what we have to do is go to the end of DHCP static. Let's click here on add. In this case I only have one computer here, which is Windows 7 here. And I'm going to take the MAC address. I'm going to put get MAC here. To give me the MAC address, it would be this 080027. I'm going to put that one. Okay, this is the MAC address of the computer. Here I'm simply going to enter the IP address that I'm going to assign to that device or computer. I'm going to assign it 192.168.1.5. Here we can enter the name of the computer to obviously identify it. I'm going to enter BM. Well, the description would be the same as the DNS. Let's enter the DNS here. 192.168.1.1. The GW also GWI or Gateway 1.1. We don't have a domain and we simply save, apply, and with this we will be reserving an IP address that would be 192.168.1.5 to the computer. To this computer that is here, right? With this MAC, and here is the reserved IP address. So let's verify here. Let's do an IP config here. Okay. IP config / relays IP config renew. And let's wait. There, as you can see, it has already assigned the IP address 192.168.1.5. In this way, this computer can now access the internet. Next, let's see here so that you can see the DNS that we have configured, the DNS as the gateway IP address. If I go here, you can see that it is resolving the addresses, well, or the domains, because I am actually connecting to my gateway. It does, but after that, all the Wi-Fi network that I have and obviously all the connections from the service provider that I am connected to, obviously have everything that has to do with the NS servers and resolve all these requests. Although it is also possible to place Google's DNS, there is no problem with that. Okay, very good, we have already reserved an IP address here. But there is a very important configuration that we can make within the DHCP server, and that is to block MAC addresses, that is, block devices that are connected to the LAN through their MAC address. And how can we do it? Simple. This option here, which is the first one, you see that it says to allow all clients, that is, it will allow all clients that are connected to the LAN. But if we start to restrict this and indicate that all clients that are connected only to that interface. Okay, so we are going to place it here and choose this option. What is this going to do? Simple, the MAC addresses that are not on this list will not be given an IP address. In other words, the MAC addresses that are, all the addresses that are on this list, the DHCP server will assign their IP address, but those that are not on this list will not be assigned IP addresses. So, I am going to save this configuration here, apply, and see that here is the address of my Windows device. And see that I have not lost the address yet. See? For example, if I am going to access another page, let's access Facebook here. See that I have not lost the connection yet, I have not lost the address. However, if I remove this MAC from this list, the DHCP server will no longer assign IP addresses to that machine, that is, to this MAC. Okay, so I'm going to remove it so that it's no longer on this list. Remove. Apply. Done. Now let's go to the machine. Let's wait there for a moment. Let's do a renew again. You'll see that it tells me that the IP address couldn't be renewed. Okay, if I restart this adapter here and reactivate it, you'll see that it'll remain identified. It won't give an IP address. If I do an IP config here, this was a GMAC IP config, you'll see that it's not giving an address, it's giving it a local link address. Okay, because it's giving a local link address. Well, precisely because that MAC address of this device is not on the list. Okay, those are some of the configurations that we can do or the configurations that we can do within our HCP server. See, here I installed a package called pfblocker-ing. This package is for blocking URLs and IP addresses. I'm still not sure how to use it. I've used it a few times, but it hasn't worked completely for me. However, when I have it ready, I'll definitely show you that video so you can learn how to configure these packages or this tool within PFS to block both IP addresses, block malicious IP addresses, and malicious URLs, including those pages that are not allowed within our network or within our corporate network. Well, in addition to that, we can also create other interfaces in the interfaces, such as an MZ interface for a demilitarized zone that we can add. Well, there are many configurations in VPNs as well, and this obviously requires making a video for each of the configurations, so I hope this video is very useful to you. Please leave your comment on what you want me to do in the next video with this firewall. And I'll see you next time. Bye.